Hello, good morning, everyone, for joining us today. All right, let us see this scenario. You are a 9-year old, you know, and your biggest problem is whether sandwich is too much, whether it has too much peanut butter in it, whether it has too much cheese in it, or if your friends will share their gel pens with you at school, or if you can play those games or play those baby games and do all the stuff that you want to do. Then out of nowhere, life kicks the door down. One day, your dad is there telling you to clean up your room, taking you in his bag, rolling on the floor with you, jumping around and calling you names and you hitting him back. Just so much happening with you and your dad, and you just happy jumping around and being so good. And the next moment, he's gone. You go to the dining, the chair is empty. No explanation. Why? Because you're 9 year old. And no explanation. Your heart cannot grasp anything. You can't really fathom what is happening. Yes. Have you really imagined that kind of thing before? That's what happened to my guest today, Marissa Yubas. And let me tell you, grief did not just come into her life like that. It moved in, it took over the fridge, it threw full blown pity parties with toxic guests that he brought along with it. Oh my gosh, you cannot imagine what happened. She had eaten because disorder because grief came with a lot of guests. It came with eating disorders, it came with addictions, it came with autoimmune diseases, it came with enough anxiety, depression, and all the sort that you can think about that is associated with grief. Just to host their own reality show in her life. But here is the twist, I tell you. There is one thing that she did. She didn't stay down. She didn't sit back there. Oh no, she did not. No. What did she do? She made sure that she survived. She did not just survive, she took her pain. She slapped some purposes into it. She destroyed it, demolished it, and told it, can you look at me? Watch me as I move on. And today, I have a guest in the house who is a licensed therapist, a mindset coach, and she's a coach with Thriving Mind Coaching. And guess what? She's not just thriving, baby. She is out there helping other people to kick out grief, to the curb, and also pick up the broken pieces of their lives and help them build something beautiful. If your life is associated with things like this scenario I just pulled up right now, I want to welcome you to Grief2Grace. This is that platform where we demolish grief and we turn it into purpose. We turn it into grace. We take away all the grief that you have and we help you to find purpose in your pain. We take away everything that is making you to be stuck and we help you to move from the state of being stuck to the state of being unstuck. And I am your host, Ruth Hephzibah. I'm a psychosocial rehabilitation specialist, a grief coach, and a fresh start advocate. I'm here today with my guest who I'll be bringing up very soon, very shortly. And I just don't want you to leave because if you been in all of these that I've talked about and you sitting and thinking like I'm too broken, I'm too lost, I'm too far gone, please just pass to that pity party. We don't want it. We want you to sit back and hear this story. hear how she was able to navigate her own story and take charge of her life and bamboozled all of those things that came her life. And today she is here striving. This is just a formal introduction to you to know that you need to rise. And on that note, I want to ask you, how are you doing today? How are you doing? I like asking that question because there are times when really not doing so good. There are times we feel we are good, but we are not. So no, you don't need to sit there and just say, yes, I am fine. So how really are you? How good are you today? How fine are you today? So before I bring up my guest, I want to talk to you about my book, which when we talked about her story, we talked about being able to rewrite her grief. And this is a pen that rewrites grief. A pen. And you are that pen that can rewrite your grief. You want to know how you can rewrite your grief? Then you need to grab a copy of this book. It's definitely going to help you rewrite your grief. Like I said, I have a guest in the house, and she is going to be talking to us about her story and how she navigated grief. So sit back as I bring her to you. Hello. How are you doing
Hi.
today? Hi, so good to have you in the house today. So today, like I said I'll be bringing up my guest in the house, Marissa, and she will be sharing her story from grief to grace on how God have been able to lift her up. And though life threw a lot of things on her, she didn't allow life to put her down. Rather, she took charge of her life. Like you need to take charge of your life today, So take charge of your life today, irrespective of the sufferings, irrespective of what you've been through. We don't need pity parties coming around. So I don't know how many guests grief brought into your house, but we have someone who had a lot of guests in her house, and today she was able to say, no, 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 not today, not today. You need to pack your load and go. I need to be who I am, who I've been created to be. And I have the honors to introduce to you Marissa. She is licensed therapist and a mindset coach at Striving Mind Coaching. So Marissa, how are you doing today?
I feel really, really good today. I'm very excited to be here. And I love sharing my story for all the reasons that you said.
Wow. Thank you so much. So, like we said, she's been able to rewrite her story. She's been able to do so much and tell her story. Like she just told you, I like sharing my story. So the next voice definitely you're going to be hearing is going to be the voice of Marissa, as she'll be sharing her story and telling us how she was able to navigate grief and move from that stage with all of the things that she's been through and moved into the stage that she is right now, where she is able to take hold of her life and also help. Are you ready to share your story?
I'm ready.
Okay, let's go.
Okay, everybody. Well, first, hi. Yes, I am now a licensed therapist and mindset coach. But to get me to this point was a very long journey. A little bit of my early childhood, because I know she mentioned that when I was 9, my dad suddenly died. But my first memory was at 3 years old when I went to go have surgery and I was being pulled away from my parents and I was really scared. And from there, I just had really severe anxiety. And by the time I was 7, I was starting on an eating disorder and drug addiction. Can you imagine being 7 years old and starting down the road of drug addiction? It's very, very, very young. And only a couple of years later did my dad die of a sudden heart attack. And I was 9. My older sister was 12, and my younger sister was 6. And, obviously we had the loss, or I had the loss of my father very unexpectedly, right? My mom lost her dad 6 months later. And in a way, I lost both parents because I lost my mom to her grief. And it was a very lonely experience for me. And I was quite numb. And over the years, I really struggled. And when I was 13, I developed or diagnosed with my first autoimmune disease. And between the emotional loss of my mom, the physical loss of my dad, and the physical loss of my health, by the time I was 13, there was a ton of grief. And I didn't know what to do with it. And I went through school, I went through college, I went through graduate school, and I struggled mentally and emotionally because I was so afraid of the pain of my grief. And with that grief, I was angry. I was extremely angry. I was angry at the world, I was angry at other people, and I was just very angry. And I didn't know what to do with those feelings. So I shoved them down and I avoided them. And what I've learned is that if I don't give myself permission to feel my feelings and know that the feelings won't kill me, it's what I might do about them that could. And I've learned that emotions will come knocking on my door. And if I don't let them in and sit down with them and let them share the message that they're bringing with me, and I ignore them knocking at the door, they will knock louder and louder and louder until they break down the door. They're going to run in to my little house and they're going to throw a fit and they're not going to leave. And I've learned that when I hear the knock at the door now, I can go over and open the door and let them in at the first knock because I don't have to be afraid of them anymore. So I let them in and I sit down and I get curious and I say, what message are you bringing me? Where do I still need to do some work in healing? And I allow it to share the message with me. And once it's shared the message and I've sat with it, it leaves. And it seemed like so contradictory to me that it's only when I allow myself to feel the grief will it then subside. And I spent many years in therapy and on medication and things along those lines. And I actually, after grad school, worked full time as a professional athlete. During this time, my health really declined, and I ended up in a wheelchair. And going from being a professional athlete to being confined by a wheelchair was devastating. And the thing that I've learned about chronic illness is that I never know what's going to happen in my body without my permission. I don't know how bad it's going to be. I don't know how long it's going to last. And I don't know what my life will look like on the other side. And there's actually tremendous grief in that because every time something happens, I lose the life I was just living. And not only did I have to grieve the loss of the life I was living and let go and allow things to fall into a new place, I had to grieve the life that I thought I would have in the future based on my current health. And that was hard because I had plans and goals, and my health decided that my body wasn't going to be able to do that. And it hurt a lot. So I would say one of the biggest things that changed my life was entering long term recovery from addiction. And through that process, I learned how to take accountability for my own life. I learned how to identify my role in the misery I was personally perpetuating in my life. And I was able to go through my history and my life experiences and my pain and learn how to have a different relationship with it, where I was able to have acceptance. And acceptance is not the same as condonement. You know, acceptance is not a way to ignore feelings. Acceptance is simply the ability to recognize that what has happened in the past is done. There's nothing I can do to go back and change it. There's no amount of stress or anxiety or self beratement, self criticism, and judgmentalness. None of that, and anger, none of that is going to bring back my dad. None of that's going to change my childhood. None of that's going to change my health. In fact, by not accepting my past, I was preventing myself from growth because I was holding on. I was living in the past. And what I had to learn was to bring myself into the present moment, because the present moment is the only place I can actually do something. So I learned to get curious about my feelings, about my pain. And I allowed myself to open my mind, like I said, to the message. What is this trying to show me? And for the longest time, it was showing me that I never grieved the loss of my dad. I never grieved the loss of my health. And because I had pushed those things down for so long, it was very intense to bring them back up. And I think one of the hardest things is to hold on when things feel worse, because they tend to get worse before they get better, because we are taking the bandage off of the infected wound, and we got to clean out the wound to get to the healthy skin that will then regenerate. And so I had to really hold on during the process where my wounds were getting cleaned and I was processing. And what was so important for me at that time was I had and still have an extremely close knit, supportive environment and network that have had those same or similar experiences and helped show me the way through their own healing, that not only was healing possible and moving forward possible, it was attainable. And it was attainable for me because I was one of those people who really believed down to my core that I was not deserving of having a happy life. I was not deserving of feeling better because deep down I thought I was the reason why my life was so bad. And to an extent, mentally, yeah, it kind of was. Um, but the death of my dad wasn't my fault. And I used to think to myself, what did I do to deserve this? And I learned that that mind frame is not helpful. It keeps me stuck. And blaming myself for something that I have no control over, really, I was hurting myself. So through my recovery and through therapy, I've really been able to go through and reprocess my grief and my trauma so that I had a different relationship with it because it doesn't go away. It simply changes. And now I've been able to help hundreds of people over the last 12 years, hundreds of people who are experiencing their own pain, their own grief. And I'm able to sit there with them and give them a safe place to feel it and process it. Because if we don't feel it, we'll never move forward. If we don't feel it, it's always going to be that undertow bringing us under. And I know that because I experienced it. I love helping people. And my experiences have brought me to a place where I can help people. And I look back at my life and I see all of these obstacles and all of this adversity and all of this pain. And I realize that those things help me develop a life that is beyond anything I could have ever dreamed of. Without that adversity, I would not have the opportunity to learn these new things and to develop a new mindset, develop a new perspective. And in my coaching, what's interesting is that I specifically help working women overcome self-limiting beliefs and mindset barriers, inferiority complex, imposter syndrome, because those are other areas of pain. I learned that my core beliefs that I learned through messaging from my family, from friends, from teachers, from the media, marketing, didn't align with my humanity. And I had to learn to let go and unravel and shed all of these core beliefs and values that didn't align with me. And you can see this whole life, everything was compounded because I didn't know how to deal with them at the time. And of course, with the death of my dad when I was 9 years old, I didn't have a strong concept of death. I knew he wasn't coming back. I knew he was gone, but I didn't know what to do with it. And I wasn't surrounded by people who could help me. And in terms of mindset, I don't think I was ready. I think I was too angry. And that's a barrier that I see with a lot of clients is we get angry and we like our anger. It feels justified. We're afraid to let it go. And it's okay to not be ready to let it go yet. It's about becoming ready to be ready, allowing ourselves that time to transition into readiness. And at the end of the day, it just takes courage. It takes one moment of courage to make one different decision. And that decision can change your whole life. I now have a life where I have a incredible husband who does his own internal work and works on his own personal growth and development. I've got two beautiful, amazing step boys, one with special needs. And if I hadn't gone through this process of relieving my pain, I would not be an effective or present stepmom. And I would be letting my anger out on other people because I was hurt. So I was going to hurt you, thinking it was going to try to make me feel better about myself. And it didn't work. It doesn't work. I love my career. I love my career. It doesn't even feel like I'm working because helping people become is so natural for me now. And connecting with people has become so natural to me now. And one of the things that I've really learned is that I can relate to a feeling. I can empathize with a feeling without absorbing it into myself and taking it on as my own. And that sort of boundary I had to learn. And without having to go through all of this pain, I don't think I'd be where I am now, having a beautiful life. Beautiful life. And when I say beautiful life, I mean from the inside out. I've developed an inner peace and serenity and contentment so that regardless of what is going on around me, I can stay centered. I can use a solution focused mindset instead of focusing on the problem. Because whatever I focus on is what's going to grow. And I think the important thing too is that I have this beautiful, amazing life beyond my wildest dreams. And grief still comes and knocks on my door. Um, I'll give an example. Last night, I was watching something and it triggered a memory. Somebody that I knew disappeared in 2019 and has been declared dead. She's never been found. Nothing about her has been found. And I was watching something last night and it triggered my thoughts about her. And it triggered my anger. And it triggered my sadness and my frustration. And what I've learned is if I try to ignore it, it's not going to go away because it needs me to feel it. So I was able to lean in and let myself cry and feel it. And it didn't last for very long. But if I had tried to suppress it, I would never stop thinking about it. I would feel that tension in me. And I've worked extremely hard to develop that inner peace and serenity to then not practice my skills that I've learned over the course of my life. Change is extremely hard. Healing is extremely hard, but life is really hard. And I learned that living the life I was living with the mindset I had was so difficult. And the change I've gone through and the process it's taken me to get there, painful in its own right. And I learned that I can choose what difficult I want. I can choose to stay in the difficult life of staying stuck and angry, or I could choose the difficult of facing my fears of feeling that pain. And I can choose the difficult of challenging myself and feeling my feelings and moving through them so that I can get to the other side and move forward with my life. And there's a difference to me between moving on and moving forward. The idea of moving on to me sounds like I'm going to forget the past, I'm going to ignore it. Moving forward to me means I'm going to continue living my life on a different trajectory rather than staying stuck and bogged down by my pain. My life has been trauma after trauma after trauma. And over the last 10 years, I've gone through a lot of pain and struggle going through my own healing. And I remember people saying this to me, and I didn't believe them, and now I do. If I can do it, you can do it too. Right? My experience is not unique. There are millions of people in this world who choose to go through the healing process and move forward in their lives. This is attainable. It takes work, effort, courage, and it is so worth it. It is so worth it. And I think that overall, that's my story. I spent over 30 years struggling with addiction, with grief, with anger, with pain, with harmful core beliefs, harmful, really negative and critical self talk that kept me down. I'm not a victim anymore. And this new mindset that it's not one or the other. It's not feeling all my pain or feeling no pain. It's this dialectic that two seemingly opposing things can be true at the same time. I have pain and grief, and I have contentment, peace, joy, serenity. I get to feel the whole range of human emotion and really connect genuinely with other people by being vulnerable. So I can feel the fear and feel the pain and know that I'm safe. And I know that if I can do the work and I can get to this place because I never believed that this was possible for me or that I deserved it, I know you can do it too. With help, with guidance, with support, you can do it. And you don't have to do it alone. So thank you for letting me share my story. And I hope it inspires you to make that one life changing decision, that one moment of courage to reach out for help. All it needs is one foot in the door. You got this. Thank you.
Thank you so much for sharing. My God, this was really inspiring. I tell you, I just was taking down a lot of notes as you were talking. It's been really like cracking up. And you see, like I said from the beginning, Marissa did not just crumble under her weight. No, she did not do that. No, she cracked it open, and in that, she broke it open, and something beautiful actually happened. And she came out step by step and began to write her story. And she rewrote this story of not being a victim to her pain, no, but a warrior for her healing. And this is one thing that I have learned today in her own story. So you too can be a warrior in your story. You too can be a warrior in your pain. Marisa is not just surviving, she is striving and she is helping other people to strive. Irrespective of what you've been through, I just want you to understand that you can do it. Healing is possible. Healing is possible. It takes you and just you to get it right. It takes you and just you to do it. It takes you and just you to rise up and take that decision today and say, you see me today, I'm not sitting here. I'm taking the step of power. I'm moving forward. I'm rushing in and I'm taking hold of my life because I'm not going to stay here anymore. I have been down and now I'm buckled up for the next episode of my life. And that is what someone needs to talk about today. So today is just that day that you need to take that decision. And I'm so glad that we have.
I think we lost her. I'm sure she will be back very soon. And I will I will say that it takes vulnerability to make connections. And it's the connections we make, the meaningful, deep connections that we make, where we get to be seen and heard for who we are and loved unconditionally for that person, flaws and all. Those are the connections that will help us grow. And like she was saying, let this be the day. Let this be the day. Because if not now, when? And if not now, why? It is scary to go into the unknown, and we tend to choose the devil we know rather than stepping into the unknown. But we know what happens when we stay where we are. And I know for me, I was afraid of my own potential. And what I've learned is, as I've moved through my life and my healing, and I've developed my own set of values and my own action steps for those values, I've been able to create a life that feels good, not worrying so much about what it looks like. And If you want to get to know me even more, you can find me online. You can find me on Instagram at Marissa Yubas, MFT. I believe my name has been popped up here. You can find me on Facebook at Marissa Yubas. You can find me on LinkedIn at Marissa Yubas. You can go to my website at mythrivingmindcoaching.com. And if you want to discuss further or even work together on your personal journey and your ongoing development and growth, and see if we're a good match to work individually or in a small group together, you can schedule through my Instagram, Facebook, or my website. And you can schedule a free, no strings attached, 45-minute discovery call where we will talk about you, your life, your goals, and we come up with a tentative plan to move forward. And we see where we are at the end of that call, and we go from there. So I'm sure that she is having some technical difficulties, and I'm very curious about what might happen right now. But this is one of the things, right? I developed self-confidence that I never had. I don't have to let situations feel awkward. I don't have to make them awkward. Here I am on a live stream, and my host is having technical difficulties, leaving me to be just me. And the old me would have panicked. My heart would be pounding. I'd be sweating. I'd get red. I'd get hot. I'd fumble. I'd sit here and just stare at the screen and maybe even just not say anything and close it. And now I'm able to be in this position where I feel comfortable in my own skin and I'm comfortable in my story because it's a part of me and it's not something to be ashamed of. It's my life. We all have chapters in our lives that we wouldn't want read out loud. And I'm sitting here and saying, it's okay to share with trusted people. It's okay to share with your therapist. It's okay to share with your network as long as they are deep, meaningful connections. Because by accepting myself and learning to love myself and having a small group of people around me who love me unconditionally and accept me just as I am, quirks and character defects and all, I have the freedom to be myself, right? Because I'm not worried about if other people like me anymore. There are 8 billion people in the world. Most of them are probably not going to like me. And I don't even like everyone. So why is it so important to me for other people to like me, especially if I'm not liking myself? It's kind of backwards. I got to learn to like and love myself, be my own best friend, talk to myself that way. Because only through my authenticity can I actually help other people, because they see it and they connect with it. So like I said, if you're interested in learning more about me or you want to get in touch, Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, my website, all of those places you can find me. So we're coming up on about 45 minutes. And unfortunately, Ruth has not been able to make it back, which is okay. So I'm going to make the decision to end our session today. Please reach out if you related to this, if you have more questions for me, if you want to share your story with me. Reach out. I'm here. Thank you guys for watching. Really appreciate it. Hope you guys took something out of this. And maybe I will see you later. All right. Bye.